Hello students, I hope you all are doing well. In today's lecture, I'll be explaining different types of plagiarism and some common assumptions about those type of plagiarism. There are basically 5 types of plagiarism. Number 1, copying from a single source. Number 2, copying from several sources. Number 3, paraphrasing. Number 4, collusion. And number 5, self-plagiarism. So let's see plagiarism in practice. What is it? You should check the details of the next section carefully to ensure that you are fully aware of what constitutes plagiarism. If you are found to have plagiarized, you may not be awarded credit or a grade for your assignment or module. So if you are involved in any type of plagiarism, at the end of the day, you will not be awarded any credit or grade for that assignment. Plagiarism in your honors dissertation or project could mean that you do not get your degree. Now that's very serious. Plagiarism takes many forms. Some of the more common forms are identified here. As I have explained you earlier that there are 5 types of plagiarism. Let's discuss all these 5 types of plagiarism one by one. First one is copying from a single source. Now this is where the student uses one of the following as the basis for the whole or a substantial part of the assignment. Now in copying from a single source, what students do, they copy from a single source. Now that single source can be anything. It can be something published, it can be something unpublished. Let's see what this type of sources can be. It can be a published or unpublished books, articles or reports. So what students do, they copy from one published book or unpublished book or one article or report. So the major chunk of their assignment is based on one book or one article or one report. Or the internet, you have copied from one internet source. It can be a TV program, a radio program, or newspaper article. It can be an essay from an essay bank. Now again, this essay can be published essay or can be unpublished essay. It can be a piece of work previously submitted by another student. So if the similar assignment was given to one of your previous batches and you take one assignment from your senior and then you just copy it, that's also a type of plagiarism. And copying from a text which is about to be submitted for the same assignment. See also collusion. Now, copying from a text which is about to be submitted for the same assignment, that means the whole class is given the same assignment and you see the assignment of one of your class fellows and you copy that assignment. Now that's what we call collusion, and collusion is also a very serious type of plagiarism. So in first type of plagiarism, copying from a single source, what students do, they copy from any single source. So their major chunk, their substantial assignment, chunk of assignment, part of assignment is based on one particular source. It could be a published source or an unpublished source. This is what I have already explained. Note that this list is comprised of both published and unpublished sources. So plagiarism is not copying just from published sources. It can also arise from the copying of unpublished sources like other people's essays. I have already explained this one. You could be accused of plagiarism if substantial copying has taken place and the majority of the words, arrangement of material, and ideas are exactly as in the original source, but this has not been acknowledged. So what you have done, you have taken help from single source and you have copied the exact words of that source and you have not acknowledged. Keep in mind then you have to acknowledge any source twice. One is in-text citation and the other is reference list. So you don't have to only give proper reference in your text, but at the end of the text you have to provide a reference list also. So if you missed any one of these things, you still plagiarize. Without acknowledgement of the original source, the tutor would not know where the information came from. Of course, so if you have copied from any other source and you have not mentioned the original source, how would tutor know that whether the words are your own words, they are your own ideas, or you have or you have copied these ideas or these words from another source? Even when an acknowledgement is included, you would still require quotation marks to indicate which words were the original ones. So even if you have acknowledged and you have used exact words in between your text, you have to keep those exact words in the quotation marks. If you have not used quotation marks and you have just acknowledged, so the tutor would not know that which words are your words and which words you have exactly copied from the original source. So if you have copied some words from the original source exactly, you need to put those words or sentences between quotation marks. Without quotation marks, you could be accused of plagiarism, as tutors would not know which words came directly from the source and which words were written by the student. Now, this kind of plagiarism is increasingly detectable with modern software such as Turnitin, and when the copying is substantial and without appropriate acknowledgement, it is usually viewed seriously. So it is very easy to detect this type of plagiarism nowadays, because we have got so many softwares like Turnitin. So if you are asked to submit an assignment through Turnitin, the Turnitin will let your tutor know which words were copied actually. Now, there are certain common assumptions for copying from a single source. Number one, if a book has been written by the lecturer, then they would expect to find their work repeated in the assignment. No. Lecturers would expect several sources to be read and used and would not be flattered to find their own work simply copied out. So some students might think that if a professor has given those students as an assignment, and the teacher has written a book on that particular topic, so if you take most of the material from that topic, from that textbook, which is written by the very professor, it will not do, because the professor would not like his own words to be repeated in the assignment. He wants you to use multiple sources so that you can come up with different opinions and different ideas. Second assumption is the ideas and information came from a basic textbook and therefore do not require referencing. No, all sources of information used require acknowledgement. Sometimes you have got an assignment and you have got a basic textbook which covers that topic. So sometimes students feel that since this is our textbook, basic textbook, and we have used this textbook throughout our module, the professor has used this textbook and we have read everything, we have taken all the material from this. So when we are using this textbook, or when we are taking some material from this textbook, we don't need to acknowledge it. No, that's not the case. Even if it is the basic textbook that you are using, if you have taken some material from this, you need to acknowledge this. See, There is no need to reference in the body of the text as long as the book or article is cited in the reference list. Now keep in mind, as I have already explained you, that you have to give in-text citation and you have to provide a reference list at the end. So if you have provided a reference list at the end and you have mentioned that source, that book in the reference list, but when you are writing the text, you have not mentioned that source, you have not cited that source in your text, that is still plagiarism, because just by citing the book at the end in the reference list does not let your tutor know which words in your text, which sentences, which ideas were taken from that book. So even in your text you need to give proper citation, that if you have used a sentence or an idea from another source, so you have to mention in your text as well that this idea or this sentence has been taken from that source. We'll be talking about in-text citation and reference list quite in great detail later on. So no, it is not enough to just have one final list of resources. It must be clear within the body of the text, as I have told you earlier, where information or ideas have come from, and original wording must be indicated through the use of quotation marks. So if you have not paraphrased it and you have used the exact words of that source, you have to use quotation marks. An accurate reference list also must be provided. So in-text citation, and then at the end you have to provide a reference list. Now the second type of plagiarism is copying from several sources. Now this is similar to the above, except that more than one source is used. Now copying from several sources means copying from several sources means that you have taken material from different sources. You have used internet, you have taken some material from a website, you have taken some material from an article, you have taken some sentences from say a textbook. So you have used multiple sources. A student obtains, for example, 4 sources of information and copies a sentence or group of sentences from A, then one from B, one from C, and one from D, and so on. So you have got so many different sources. You have taken one sentence or a group of sentences from one source, and then some sentence from second source, and some sentence from third source, and some sentence from the fourth source, and you have copied all those sentences in your own text. The sources used might well have been cited in the final reference list. The essay might answer the question set, and the organization of the material may well be the student's own. Now what you have done, you have got your own text, you have got your own organization, and the information, the material that you are providing is also relevant. However, this could still be considered to be plagiarism. Why? Because the words are not yours. You know, the organization is yours, perhaps the way you have organized the material is your own, the information that you have provided is relevant, but the words you have just copy pasted, you know, those words from different sources, so it is still plagiarism. Why? The reason is that although the structure and composition is the student's own work, the words are not. So the words are not yours. Rules of academic writing require that whatever direct quotations, the actual words, are copied from a source, this should be indicated by the use of quotation marks and appropriate acknowledgement. So though you have taken material from different sources, but you have copied them, and you have copied the exact words. So since you have copied the exact words, you need to provide quotation marks in your text, and at the end of your assignment you have to provide a reference list. If no quotation marks are included within the text, the work is being dishonest about who actually wrote what. So if you have not provided quotation marks, so the tutor would not know which words are yours and which words you have taken from any other source. As we will see later, the solution is not just to add quotation marks to each of the sections used, because all this does is provide a long list of quotations and you're unlikely to gain a good grade. Yes, uh, students are not encouraged to use so many quotation marks. Uh, so what you have got to do, if you are copying from a source, you have to paraphrase, you have to use your own words. You cannot use quotation marks again and again. If you're using quotation marks again and again, so at the end of the day it's not going to be your own work, and it is always discouraged. I just give an example that in my final thesis, which consisted of more or less 17,000-18,000 words, there were hardly 3 or 4 quotation marks that I used. So if you're using so many quotation marks, it is never encouraged. Students are never encouraged to do that. So you cannot just copy and paste the words. You need to paraphrase those words, even if you are providing the source, the original source. If you're acknowledging, if you are providing the reference list, even then you're not supposed to copy the exact words. You need to avoid it as much as possible. In some extreme cases you can do it, but in other cases please avoid this. In such a case you'll not get good grades if you do that. So in such a case, the student's only contribution is cutting and pasting, which is not what the assignment was designed to assess. And there is no demonstration by the student of the required skills of analysis, interpretation, judgment, or evaluation. So if you just copied from other sources, though you have acknowledged them, you are using so many quotation marks and you are putting others' words into your assignment, it's not going to work, because you're not going to get good grades, because it's not your work. You have just copied and pasted others' work in your assignment. So these skills like analysis, interpretation, judgment, or evaluations, these skills are not there. Now let's talk about some common assumptions for copying from several sources. First assumption is the original sources put it better than anybody else could, so it's okay. Yes, in most of the cases, students feel that if they have taken something from a textbook which is written by a well-renowned author, so they feel that the author has written it quite perfectly, and the words that he has used, you cannot use better words than the author. So you don't need to paraphrase, or you cannot paraphrase it. No, you are expected to use the sources constructively. Demonstrate that you have understood them and have been able to use them effectively in the assignment. You have got your own assignment, so you have got your own context. So if you are using any source and the writer has written something in his source, you need to paraphrase it and rephrase it, and you have to put it in your own words. You need to use the sources in a way that demonstrates your understanding of the text. So if you are able to paraphrase or rephrase the words that you have about the sources that you have used, it will give your tutor an understanding that actually you have an understanding of the text, you have understood the text, and in order to paraphrase and rephrase, you have to understand the text. So that shows that you have understood the text. Otherwise, if you're just copying and pasting, that does not let your tutor know that you have understood the text or not. Second, B, you can copy from several sources as long as you have quotation marks and a reference list. So another common assumption is that students feel that they can copy from several sources as long as they have quotation marks and a reference list. No, you are encouraged to use a variety of sources, but you should not be copying extensively or directly from them. As I have already explained to you, that students are not encouraged to use quotation marks again and again, because you are just copying the exact words. That shows your lack of understanding of the text. You should be able to rephrase and paraphrase something that you have read in your own words. So you should try and limit the use of quotations. You should not be using quotations again and again, so that your essay does not become a patchwork of other people's words or ideas. If you're using so many quotations, your work becomes a patchwork of other people's words or ideas. It's not your own work. Any direct quotations you do decide to use should be within quotation marks and referenced correctly. However, if you have decided to use some exact words in some extreme case, you should be using quotation marks, and you should reference it properly. Check faculty divisional guidelines. These will vary depending on the subject area and assignment. So before an assignment, you should consult your tutor what he actually wants from you. So you should be following the guidelines provided by the university or provided by the tutor. Third type of plagiarism is paraphrasing. Now, paraphrasing is rewriting someone else's views or ideas into your own words. Students are encouraged to paraphrase. So paraphrasing is plagiarism only if you have not acknowledged it. To a certain extent, any essay or assignment which relies on reading and analyzing a series of texts will contain a significant amount of paraphrasing. However, even if you paraphrase somebody else's work, you'll still need to acknowledge the source of ideas or evidence upon which your own ideas are based. So in first or second type of plagiarism, what you are doing actually, you're copying the exact words and sentences from a source or multiple sources. So in third type of plagiarism, what you do, you read a chapter, or you read a page, and then you summarize that page in your own words. So what you have done, you have paraphrased. Now if you have done it, you need to acknowledge it as well, because some students might feel that since you have used your own words, so you don't need to cite. But keep in mind that okay, the words are yours, but the idea is not yours. Okay, you will still need to acknowledge the source of ideas or evidence upon which your ideas are based. Therefore, in this case, remember to ensure that you do not rely on only one source of material. You acknowledge all sources used. You take care when taking notes to remember what is copied from text and what is in your own words. So this type of plagiarism is a little different than first two types of plagiarism. In this type of plagiarism, you have summarized, you have paraphrased, you have rephrased the words from the original source, but still the thought is not yours, the idea is not yours. So even if you have written it in your own words, but you have taken idea from any particular source, you still need to mention that source, you still need to acknowledge that source. Now there are some common assumptions about paraphrasing. A, just changing everything into your own words is enough. So if you think that you have changed everything into your own words, so you're not copying the exact words, you have rephrased and paraphrased the original source. If all you have done is summarize someone else's ideas, then you have still copied, because you have made it appear as if the ideas, arrangement of material, etc. were your own. So what you have done, you have summarized someone else's ideas and you have not acknowledged it. So if you have paraphrased, if you have rephrased, if you have summarized others' works or ideas, you still need to give credit to that original source. B. It is okay to paraphrase everything as long as all sources are cited in the reference list. Now, another misperception or common assumption is that if you are paraphrasing, as long as you have provided a reference list at the end, that where you have taken those material from, that's enough. No, I have already told you, you need to give proper referencing, not only in your text, which is called in-text citation. You have to, when you're writing your text, in between, if you are using an idea which is not yours, you need to cite it. You have to provide in-text citation then and there. One, and second, you have to provide the source in the reference list as well. Even when you paraphrase someone else's work, it still needs to be acknowledged within the assignment. If you have not acknowledged within the assignment, and if you have just only provided a reference list at the end, how come the tutor know that in your whole text which ideas were taken from that source? If you have not mentioned in your text that no, these ideas are from someone else, so you have to provide proper in-text citation also. We'll be talking about in-text citation and reference list and perhaps a couple of weeks later in great detail. To simply summarize the work of others and not acknowledge this within the text, even if the works are in the reference list, is still trying to pass someone else's work off as your own. So if you have just provided a reference list and you have not given in-text citation, it is still plagiarism because it is still trying to pass someone else's work off as your own. Okay, so fourth type of plagiarism is collusion. This can occur when students work together. It is very important to distinguish when this is required and when it has to end. Some assignments require students to work together as part of a group project. Where the group as a whole gets the mark, then it is joint work throughout and the group cooperation is part of what is being assessed. So collusion is when you take help from other students, when you have copied the material of other students. If the students, for example, if the whole class is given the same assignment, individual assignment, and if you copy from any other student's text, it is collusion. Okay. Sometimes, if it is an individual assignment, sometimes students are given group projects or group assignments. That means that students who are members of that particular group, they can cooperate with one another, but you cannot take help from other group members, other groups. So only within the group, all those group members, they can cooperate and their input can be taken. So that's not going to be collusion if it is a group work and you have taken help from your group members. But if it is individual assignment, then you cannot copy any of your classmates. However, some group projects require students to work together at the planning stage, but then to submit individual students. Now that depends on that group work or group project. In some group projects, students are required to work together at the planning stage only. So at the planning stage they can plan together, but at the end of the day they have to submit individual assignments. So till the planning stage they can cooperate with one another, but assignments have got to be individual. So that depends on your tutor, what guidelines your tutor has provided you. If it is individual assessment, individual assignment, then you cannot you cannot copy any other student. If it is a group assignment, then you can cooperate with your group members only. But if it is a group assignment or group project, and you're asked to cooperate only in planning stage, so you can cooperate only in planning stage, but then you have to submit individual assignments. A difficult area is when students discuss their work together. A line needs to be drawn between legitimate discussion of the current assignment with the students, colleagues, and collusion. The important thing to remember is that whilst general discussion of the issue involved or approaches to be taken is acceptable, the final submission must be your own individual effort. So this is possible that the whole class is given an assignment, and initially some friends or the whole class, they discuss the assignment in general. So this is mostly what we would do in our assignments. So when an assignment was given to us, we would discuss that assignment with our friends, classmates who were close to us. It could have been a general discussion only, but when it comes to submitting the assignment, your assignment has to be individual. So if you were discussing something in general and all the students have written the same thing, actually has copied the same thing, again it's going to be plagiarism. So you can discuss something in general, but then again you have to write your own assignment. You have to come up with your own individual assignment. In a case where two or more students submit similar or identical work and culpability cannot be established, any penalties for plagiarism will be applied equally to both students. So this is very serious. So if two students have written more or less same or identical assignment, that's what we call collusion, and it is difficult to establish. Both students claim that the other student has copied him or her, and it's difficult to decide which student actually has copied. In this case, what happens? Both students are given penalty. So you have got to be very careful. So if you are done with your assignment and if you are sharing your assignment with your friend, or if you have given access of your assignment to one of your classmates, and that classmate has copied a major chunk or some parts of your assignment, it is very difficult to establish later on who has copied whom, because it may be possible that the student who has copied, he has submitted the assignment earlier before you. It's very difficult for you to establish that it was your own assignment, your original assignment, and somebody else has copied from you. So you've got to be very careful. You can have a general discussion with your friends, but you cannot share your material with your friends. You cannot even let your classmates see your assignments or give access to your email perhaps. And the last type of plagiarism is self-plagiarism. Now, self-plagiarism can arise from a student using his or her own previous work. If credit has already been gained for a piece of submitted work at any institution or university, Sterling University, the word Sterling has been used here because I've taken most of this information from a booklet which is from Sterling University. Then a student cannot resubmit this same piece or parts of it to satisfy the requirements of another module. This is treated as plagiarism. Now this is not for one university, this is for all the universities, and this is a general principle. I think I explained this to you in my previous lecture as well. Then that there is a type of plagiarism which is called self-plagiarism. Now if you have written an assignment already, and in some other module, in some other course, a similar assignment is given to you, and you feel that you have written that assignment or similar assignment already, you submit or resubmit that assignment thinking that you have not plagiarized it because this is your own work. It is still plagiarism, a type of plagiarism, because you have already gained credit for that assignment. So you cannot just resubmit the same assignment that you have previously submitted for any other module or for another course. So that's going to be self-plagiarism. So if you have if you are given an assignment which you have already taken in some other module or course, you can talk to your tutor, and you can tell him or her that you have already you have already attempted that assignment, you have already done that assignment. So most probably the teacher would change the assignment for you, or if he or she does not change the assignment, then perhaps you have to come up with a different assignment. So you're not going to copy your own previous assignment as well. That is what we call self-plagiarism. So these were 5 different types of plagiarism that we have discussed today. I hope you must have understood. Have a good day. This will do for today.